The steam from the espresso machine created a misty barrier between Brooke Gibson and the rest of the world, a comfortable shield she had grown accustomed to during her 3 years as head barista at Emerald Café. But today, that barrier wasn't enough to block out the man standing at her counter, his steel blue eyes fixed on her with an intensity that made her nearly overfill the latte she was preparing. "Could I get a large Americano, please?" "Black," he said, his voice deep and confident with a hint of something Brooke couldn't quite place, exhaustion perhaps, or impatience. "Of course," she replied, punching the order into the register. "Name for the order, Ryan," he answered. "Ryan Sutherland." Brooke nodded, scribbling the name on a paper cup with her marker. She couldn't help but notice how out of place he looked in their cozy neighborhood cafe. His tailored charcoal suit probably cost more than her monthly rent, and the watch on his wrist gleamed under the pendant lights hanging from the ceiling. "$4.75, she said, trying not to stare at him. Ryan handed her a $20 bill. "Keep the change," he said with a small smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. Before she could thank him, he had already moved to the waiting area, pulling out his phone and frowning at whatever he saw on the screen. Brooke prepared his Americano, stealing glances at him between steps. There was something magnetic about him, not just his obvious good looks with that dark hair and strong jawline, but the way he carried himself, like someone accustomed to commanding attention. "Americano for Ryan," she called out, setting the cup on the counter. He approached, slipping his phone into his pocket. As he reached for the coffee, their fingers brushed briefly, and Brooke felt an unexpected jolt that had nothing to do with the hot liquid in the cup. "Thank you," he said, and this time his smile seemed more genuine. He hesitated for a moment, his eyes lingering on hers. "This might sound forward, but would you like to have dinner with me sometime?" Brooke blinked, certain she had misheard him. Men who looked like Ryan Sutherland didn't ask women like her out, especially not within 30 seconds of meeting them. She was about to respond when another customer cleared their throat behind him, forcing her attention away. "I'm sorry, I shouldn't have put you on the spot like that," Ryan said quickly. "Forget I asked." "No, wait," Brooke said, surprising herself with her boldness. "I'd like that, I'm just—" "Surprised?" Ryan's expression brightened. "Don't be surprised. You're beautiful, and I've learned to trust my instincts." He pulled out a business card and slid it across the counter. "My number. Text me when you're free." Brooke picked up the card, her eyes widening at the embossed lettering. "Ryan Sutherland, CEO, Sutherland Marine Industries." "You're the Ryan Sutherland?" she asked, unable to hide her shock. Sutherland Marine Industries was one of the largest shipping companies in the country, worth billions. He shrugged, looking almost uncomfortable with her recognition. "Just Ryan is fine," he said with a wink. "I'll be waiting for that text." With that, he took his coffee and walked out, leaving Brooke staring after him, the business card still clutched in her hand. "Earth to Brooke," said Mia, her coworker, snapping her fingers in front of Brooke's face. What was that all about? That guy looked like he just walked off a GQ cover. Brooke tucked the card into her apron pocket. "He asked me out," she replied, still processing what had just happened. "And?" Mia pressed, her eyes wide. "And I think I'm going to say yes," Mia squealed, drawing the attention of several customers. "Of course you're going to say yes. Do you know who that was?" Brooke nodded slowly. "I do now." She felt the weight of the card in her pocket, already wondering what she was getting herself into. Later that evening, after finishing her shift, Brooke sat on the edge of her bed in her small studio apartment, Ryan's business card in one hand and her phone in the other. She'd spent the entire afternoon debating whether to text him. On paper, the whole scenario seemed absurd, a millionaire CEO asking out a coffee shop barista after a 30-second interaction. It sounded like the beginning of a bad romantic comedy. But there had been something in his eyes, something genuine that made her want to take the chance. With a deep breath, she typed out a message. "Hi, Ryan. It's Brooke from Emerald Café. If your dinner invitation is still open, I'd love to take you up on it. Friday evening works for me." She pressed send before she could change her mind, then immediately tossed her phone onto her bed as if it had burned her. To her surprise, it buzzed with a response almost instantly. "Hello, Brooke. I'm glad you texted. Friday works perfectly. I'll pick you up at 7. Send me your address when you can. Looking forward to it." Brooke read the message 3 times, her heart racing. This was really happening. She was going on a date with Ryan Sutherland, a man whose company probably owned half the ships in the harbor she could see from her apartment window. "What am I doing?" she muttered to herself, falling back onto her pillows. Friday arrived faster than Brooke anticipated. She had spent an embarrassing amount of time deciding what to wear, finally settling on a simple navy blue dress that her friend Mia insisted brought out her eyes. As she applied the finishing touches to her makeup, doubts crept in. What did she really know about Ryan Sutherland? Besides his wealth and good looks, practically nothing. What could they possibly have to talk about? What would he think when he saw her tiny apartment? The buzzer rang precisely at 7 o'clock, interrupting her spiral of anxiety. Brooke took one last look in the mirror, tucked a strand of honey-brown hair behind her ear, and went to answer the door. Ryan stood in the hallway, even more handsome than she remembered. He had traded his business suit for dark jeans and a crisp white button-down shirt, managing to look both casual and sophisticated. "Hi," she said, immediately feeling foolish for the simple greeting, but Ryan smiled warmly, his eyes taking her in with obvious appreciation. "Hi. You look beautiful, Brooke." "Thank you," she replied, feeling a blush spread across her cheeks. "You clean up pretty well yourself." He laughed, a rich sound that instantly put her at ease. "I brought you these," he said, producing a bouquet of wildflowers from behind his back. "The florist told me roses were too predictable." Brooke accepted the flowers, charmed by the thoughtful gesture. "They're perfect. Let me put them in water before we go." She invited him in, suddenly self-conscious about her modest apartment. To his credit, Ryan didn't seem to notice or care about the size of her living space. Instead, he looked genuinely interested in the details that made it hers: the small collection of vintage coffee mugs on her open shelving, the watercolor paintings she had done herself hanging on the walls, the stack of dog-eared books on her coffee table. "These are lovely," he said, examining one of her paintings. "Did you do these?" Brooke nodded, surprised by his interest. "It's just a hobby." "You're talented," he said, and she could tell he meant it. After she arranged the flowers in a vase, they headed out. Instead of the luxury car she had expected, Ryan led her to a classic convertible, a restored 1960s Mustang in midnight blue. "This is yours?" Brooke asked, running her hand along the sleek hood. Ryan grinned, looking boyishly proud. "My one indulgence. Well, one of them." He opened the passenger door for her. "I restored it myself." "You restore cars?" she asked as he slid into the driver's seat. "When I have the time, which isn't often these days," he admitted, starting the engine. The car purred to life, the sound reverberating through the quiet street. "It helps me clear my head. Being CEO isn't exactly stress-free." As they drove through the city, Brooke expected Ryan to take her to one of those exclusive restaurants where the menu had no prices and the waiters spoke in hushed tones. Instead, he surprised her by pulling up to a small, family-owned Italian place tucked away on a side street. "I hope you like Italian," he said as he helped her out of the car. "I love it," she assured him. The restaurant was warm and inviting, with checkered tablecloths and candles flickering in wine bottles. The owner, an elderly man named Marco, greeted Ryan like an old friend, embracing him and speaking rapid Italian. "Ryan, mio figlio, e grave passato troppo tempo," Marco exclaimed before turning to Brooke with a warm smile. "And who is this beautiful lady?" "This is Brooke," Ryan introduced her. "Brooke, this is Marco. He makes the best gnocchi in the city." "In the country," Marco corrected with a laugh. "Come, come, I have your favorite table ready." As they followed Marco to a corner table by the window, Brooke whispered to Ryan, "You speak Italian?" "Just enough to order food and get myself in trouble," he replied with a wink. Over dinner, conversation flowed more easily than Brooke had anticipated. Ryan wasn't at all what she had expected. Despite his wealth and status, he was down to earth and attentive, asking questions about her life and actually listening to her answers. She told him about growing up in a small town in Oregon, her move to the city for art school, and how she ended up managing Emerald Café when her plans for an art career didn't pan out. In turn, he shared stories about his childhood, growing up with the weight of family expectations on his shoulders. "My father started Sutherland Marine with one tugboat," Ryan explained as they shared a tiramisu for dessert. "By the time I was born, it had grown into a small fleet. He always expected me to take over, but I initially wanted to be an engineer, design the ships instead of managing the business." "What changed your mind?" Brooke asked. Fascinated by this glimpse into his life, Ryan's expression grew more serious. "He got sick when I was in my second year of college. Cancer. It became clear that I needed to step up." He paused, swirling the wine in his glass. "He recovered, thankfully, but by then I had seen how much the company meant to him, to our family legacy. I finished my business degree instead and joined the company." "Do you regret it?" she asked softly. He considered her question for a moment. "Sometimes I wonder what might have been, but no, I don't regret it. I've been able to grow the company in ways my father never imagined. And I still get to tinker with engines now and then, just on a different scale." His smile returned. "What about you? Do you regret not pursuing art?" Brooke shrugged. "I still create when I can, and honestly, I love the cafe. There's something special about being part of people's daily rituals, you know, being the person who makes that first cup of coffee that helps them face the day." Ryan's eyes softened as he looked at her. "I think that's beautiful, Brooke." The evening passed quickly, and when Ryan finally drove her home, Brooke was surprised to find herself reluctant for the night to end. At her door, he hesitated, his eyes searching hers. "I had a wonderful time tonight," he said. "So did I," she replied honestly. He leaned in slowly, giving her plenty of time to pull away if she wanted to. But Brooke found herself moving toward him, drawn by a magnetic pull she couldn't explain. Their lips met in a gentle kiss that sent warmth spreading through her entire body. When they broke apart, Ryan's smile was tender. "Can I see you again?" Brooke nodded, unable to suppress her own smile. "I'd like that." After Ryan left, Brooke closed her door and leaned against it, her fingers touching her lips where his had been moments before. She couldn't help the bubble of excitement rising in her chest, even as a voice in the back of her mind warned her to be cautious. Men like Ryan Sutherland didn't typically end up with women like her. But for tonight, she decided to silence that voice and simply enjoy the memory of a perfect evening. The following weeks passed in a whirlwind as Brooke and Ryan continued to see each other. Each date revealed new facets of his personality that surprised and delighted her. Despite his wealth and status, Ryan seemed most comfortable in simple settings, cooking dinner at his penthouse apartment, taking walks along the waterfront, or visiting small art galleries that featured local artists. On their third date, He took her to the marina where Sutherland Marine's headquarters were located. As the sun set over the water, casting golden light across the docked vessels, Ryan pointed out the different ships owned by his company. That one there, the Aurora, was the first major vessel I commissioned as CEO, he explained, his arm around her shoulders. We've expanded our fleet by 30% in the last 5 years, focusing on more environmentally sustainable designs. It's impressive, Brooke said, genuinely awed by the scale of his operation. You must be very proud. Ryan glanced down at her, his expression thoughtful. I am, but sometimes I wonder if I've been focusing too much on the business and not enough on other things. Like what? She asked. Like having a life outside of work, he admitted. Before I met you, I couldn't remember the last time I took an evening off just to enjoy myself. His words warmed her, but they also added pressure. Brooke was becoming increasingly aware of the disparity in their lives. Ryan moved in circles. She had never even glimpsed wealthy business associates, charity galas, board meetings in exotic locations. Meanwhile, her world consisted of the cafe, her small circle of friends, and her modest artistic aspirations. These insecurities came to a head when Ryan invited her to attend a charity gala hosted by Sutherland Marine. It would be their first public appearance together, and the thought of meeting Ryan's colleagues and friends filled Brooke with dread. I don't have anything to wear to something like that, she confessed when he brought it up one evening as they were curled up on her couch, watching an old movie. That's easily fixed, Ryan said, kissing her temple. Let me buy you something. No, she said firmly, sitting up straight. I can't let you do that. Ryan looked confused. Why not? It's just a dress, Brooke. Because it's not just about the dress, she explained, struggling to articulate her feelings. It's about feeling like I don't belong in your world. If I show up in a dress you bought me, I'll feel like I'm playing dress up. Understanding dawned in Ryan's eyes. He took her hands in his. Brooke, you belong wherever you want to belong, and as for my world, he sighed. The truth is, most of those people at the gala are just business connections. I don't even like half of them. His honesty made her laugh despite herself. The person I want by my side is you, exactly as you are. His sincerity touched her, but didn't completely erase her doubts. In the end, they compromised. Brooke borrowed a dress from her friend Mia, who had splurged on a designer piece for a cousin's wedding the previous year. It was a simple but elegant black gown that made her feel confident without feeling like she was pretending to be someone else. The night of the gala, Ryan picked her up in a sleek limousine, looking devastatingly handsome in his tuxedo. When he saw her, his eyes widened in appreciation. You are absolutely stunning, he said, his voice husky. Brooke smiled, pushing aside her nervousness. You don't look too bad yourself, Mr. Sutherland. As they drove to the hotel where the event was being held, Ryan sensed her tension. He squeezed her hand reassuringly. Just be yourself. That's the woman I'm crazy about. The ballroom was opulent, filled with Seattle's elite dressed in their finest attire. Crystal chandeliers cast a warm glow over the crowd, and a string quartet played softly in the corner. Brooke took a deep breath as they entered, Ryan's hand firm against the small of her back. Ryan. There you are, called a silver-haired man, approaching them with a champagne flute in hand. We were beginning to think you might skip your own gala. Not a chance, Harold, Ryan replied with a practiced smile. May I introduce Brooke Gibson? Brooke, this is Harold Mercer, our company's CFO and my right-hand man. Harold's eyes swept over Brooke with barely concealed curiosity. Ah, the mysterious woman who's been occupying our CEO's time. Pleasure to meet you, Miss Gibson. Likewise, Brooke said, forcing confidence into her voice. "And what is it that you do, Miss Gibson?" Harold asked, his tone suggesting he already knew the answer and found it lacking. Before Brooke could respond, Ryan cut in. "Brooke is an artist and manages one of the best coffee shops in the city. She makes a cappuccino that would make you weep, Harold." Harold chuckled, though his eyes remained calculating. How charming! As the evening progressed, Brooke met a parade of Ryan's colleagues and business associates. Some, like Harold, regarded her with thinly veiled skepticism. Others, particularly the wives and partners of businessmen, were openly welcoming, perhaps relieved to have someone new to talk to amid the usual corporate discussions. During a brief moment alone, Brooke excused herself to the restroom, needing a few minutes of quiet. As she was fixing her lipstick in the mirror, she overheard two women entering, their voices lowered in gossip. "Did you see Ryan Sutherland's date? Apparently, she's a barista," one woman said with a laugh. "I give it a month before he trades up," the other replied. "Men like Ryan don't marry coffee shop girls. She's a diversion, nothing more." Brooke froze, their words hitting her like a physical blow. It was as if they had voiced her deepest insecurities. She waited until they left before emerging from the stall, her hands shaking slightly as she smoothed down her borrowed dress. When she returned to the ballroom, she found Ryan deep in conversation with an older gentleman. He immediately reached for her hand when she approached, drawing her into his side. "Brooke, this is Walter Kingsley, one of our longest-standing board members. Walter, this is Brooke Gibson." Walter's kind eyes crinkled as he smiled at her. "Ryan hasn't stopped talking about you all evening," he said warmly. "It's refreshing to see him so animated about something other than shipping routes and profit margins." Brooke managed a smile, but she couldn't shake the women's comments from her mind. As the evening continued, she found herself increasingly withdrawn, responding to conversations but not fully engaging. Ryan noticed, his concerned gaze following her throughout the night. When they finally left the gala shortly after midnight, Ryan directed the driver to take them to the waterfront instead of back to Brooke's apartment. They walked along the quiet boardwalk, the city lights reflecting on the dark water. "What happened in there?" Ryan asked gently. "You seemed to be enjoying yourself, then something changed." Brooke hesitated, unsure whether to share what she'd overheard, but the doubt had taken root and she needed to address it. "I overheard some women talking in the restroom," she admitted. "They were speculating about us. About why you would be with someone like me." Ryan's expression darkened. "What did they say? That I'm just a temporary distraction, that men like you don't end up with coffee shop girls." She tried to keep her voice light, but the hurt seeped through. Ryan stopped walking and turned to face her, his hands cupping her face gently. "Those women don't know anything about me or about you or about what we have together." "Don't they?" Brooke challenged, her insecurities finally breaking free. "Ryan, look at our lives. You run a billion-dollar company. I make coffee for a living. I live in a studio apartment and you have a penthouse with a view of the entire city. We're from different worlds." "That's all surface stuff, Brooke," Ryan insisted. "None of that matters to me. What matters is how I feel when I'm with you. How you make me laugh. How you see beauty in the small things I've spent years overlooking. How you're the first person I want to talk to when something happens, good or bad." His words were passionate, sincere, but Brooke's doubts ran deep. "I want to believe that's enough," she whispered. "It is," Ryan said firmly. "But if you need time to believe it, I understand." He kissed her forehead gently. "Just don't let other people's narrow-mindedness define what we can be." As Ryan drove her home that night, Brooke was quiet, processing their conversation. She wanted desperately to believe that their feelings for each other could bridge the gap between their worlds. But the reality was that they faced challenges most couples didn't. The question was whether what they were building was strong enough to withstand those challenges. In the days following the gala, Brooke threw herself into work at the cafe, trying to sort through her conflicting emotions. Ryan gave her the space she had asked for, though he sent her thoughtful text messages each morning and evening, reminding her that he was thinking of her. On the third day, Mia cornered her in the storage room. "Okay, spill," she demanded. "You've been moping around for days and you still haven't told me how the gala went. Did something happen with Ryan?" Brooke sighed, setting down the bag of coffee beans she had been inventorying. "The gala was revealing," she said carefully. "I got a good look at Ryan's world and I'm not sure I fit into it." Mia crossed her arms, looking unimpressed. "So some rich snobs made you feel inadequate, and instead of telling them to shove off, you're letting them win." "It's not that simple," Brooke protested. "Actually, it is," Mia insisted. "Do you have feelings for Ryan?" "Yes, of course. And does he have feelings for you?" Brooke nodded. "He says he does." "Has he given you any reason to doubt that?" "No," Brooke admitted. "Then the rest is just noise," Mia concluded. "Look, I get it. Dating someone with that kind of wealth and status comes with complications. But if you care about each other, you figure it out together. Pushing him away because you're scared isn't going to make you happier." Mia's words stayed with Brooke throughout her shift. As she served customers and prepared drinks, she couldn't help but think about how Ryan had never made her feel less than. It was her own insecurities, amplified by others' judgments, that were creating distance between them. By the time she closed the cafe that evening, Brooke had made her decision. She pulled out her phone and texted Ryan, "Can we talk? I miss you." His response came almost immediately, "I miss you too. I'll be there in 20 minutes." True to his word, Ryan arrived at the cafe just as Brooke was locking up. The sight of him, looking both hopeful and anxious, made her heart race. "Hi," she said, suddenly nervous. "Hi," he replied, his eyes searching hers. "I've been worried about you." Brooke took a deep breath. "I'm sorry I pulled away. The gala brought up a lot of insecurities I didn't know I had." "You have nothing to be insecure about," Ryan said earnestly. "I know that rationally," she acknowledged. "But it's hard not to compare our lives and wonder if we're setting ourselves up for failure. I don't want to fall any deeper for you if we're doomed from the start." Ryan stepped closer, his expression serious. "Brooke, do you know what I thought the first time I saw you in this cafe? Beyond thinking you were beautiful," she shook her head. "I thought, there's a woman who loves what she does. I could see it in how you interacted with customers, how carefully you prepared each drink. In a world where most people I meet are calculating their next move or trying to impress me, your authenticity was like a breath of fresh air." He took her hands in his. "I'm not interested in someone who fits neatly into what others think should be my world. I want someone who challenges me, who brings her own perspective, her own passions." Tears pricked at Brooke's eyes. "I want to believe this can work." "Then let's make it work," Ryan said simply. "Together. One day at a time." In that moment, standing in the dimly lit cafe where they had first met, Brooke made a choice to trust in Ryan, in herself, and in what they were building together. She rose on her tiptoes and kissed him, pouring all her hope and fear and longing into the contact. When they broke apart, Ryan's smile was radiant. "Does this mean you're giving us another chance?" "Yes," Brooke confirmed, "but we need to be realistic about the challenges." "Agreed," Ryan said. "Starting with introducing you properly to my world, not throwing you into the deep end like I did with that gala." And so began a new phase in their relationship. Ryan made a conscious effort to integrate Brooke into his life gradually, introducing her to his close friends first, people who saw beyond his wealth to the man beneath. Brooke was surprised to discover that many of them were down to earth and welcoming, with none of the pretension she had feared. In turn, She invited Ryan deeper into her world, introducing him to her small circle of friends, taking him to local art shows and community events she cared about. He embraced these experiences with genuine enthusiasm, often commenting that they reminded him of what really mattered beyond boardrooms and balance sheets. One rainy Saturday morning, about 3 months after they had begun dating, Ryan surprised Brooke by showing up at her apartment with a picnic basket. "I know we had plans to go hiking, but since the weather isn't cooperating." He held up the basket with a grin. Brooke laughed, delighted by his thoughtfulness. "An indoor picnic, I love it." They spread a blanket on her living room floor and unpacked the basket, which contained an assortment of artisanal cheeses, fresh bread, fruit, and a bottle of wine. As they ate and talked, rain pattering against the windows, Brooke felt a sense of contentment wash over her. This was what mattered, these simple moments of connection. "I have something to tell you," Ryan said after they had finished eating, his tone suddenly more serious. Brooke looked at him questioningly, a flicker of anxiety rising in her chest. "I've been thinking a lot about what you said about our different worlds," he began. "And you were right that we need to acknowledge those differences, but I've also been thinking about how to bridge them." "What do you mean?" she asked. "I'm starting a new initiative through the company," he explained, his eyes lighting up with enthusiasm. "A foundation to support small businesses in underserved communities. We'll provide grants, mentorship resources, help people with vision and drive build something sustainable." "That sounds amazing," Brooke said sincerely, touched by his passion for the project. "Here's where you come in," Ryan continued. "I want you to head the Arts and Culture Division of the Foundation. You understand what small creative businesses need in a way I never could. Your perspective would be invaluable." Brooke stared at him in shock. "You want me to work for you?" Ryan shook his head quickly. "Not for me. With me. The foundation would be separate from Sutherland Marine, with its own board and governance. You'd have autonomy to build the program as you see fit." He took her hands in his. "You've talked about wanting to do more with your art background to help other artists. This could be your chance." The offer was tempting, more than tempting. It represented everything Brooke had once dreamed of doing but had set aside when financial realities hit. But a nagging doubt remained. "Ryan, are you offering me this because you think I need to have a more impressive job to fit into your life?" "Absolutely not," he replied firmly. "I'm offering because I've seen your passion, your eye for talent, and your business sense running the cafe. This foundation needs someone like you. But if you're not interested, I understand completely. It won't change anything between us." Brooke studied his face, searching for any sign of insincerity, but found only earnest hope. "Can I think about it?" she asked finally. "Of course," Ryan agreed. "Take all the time you need." Over the next week, Brooke considered Ryan's offer carefully. She discussed it with Mia and with the cafe owner, who surprised her by encouraging her to pursue the opportunity. She researched similar foundations and their impact, growing increasingly excited about the possibilities. By the following weekend, she had made her decision. She invited Ryan over for dinner, preparing his favorite pasta dish as they had shared on one of their early dates. "I've thought about your offer," she said as they sat across from each other at her small dining table. "I want to accept, but with conditions." Ryan raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "I'm listening." "First, I need to know that this is a real position, not something you created to make me feel better about myself. I want to earn my place." "Agreed," Ryan said without hesitation. "You'll have clear responsibilities and metrics for success, just like any other executive director." "Second, I want to start part-time. I don't want to abandon the cafe completely, at least not right away. Those people count on me." Ryan nodded. We can structure it however works best for you. And third, Brooke continued, a smile playing at her lips, I need reassurance that dating the founder won't make things awkward around the office. Ryan laughed, reaching across the table to take her hand. I think we can manage that. So is that a yes? It's a yes, Brooke confirmed, feeling a weight lift from her shoulders. This felt right not because it would make her more acceptable to Ryan's world, but because it aligned with her own values and aspirations. As spring turned to summer, Brooke divided her time between the cafe and helping Ryan establish the Sutherland Foundation for Community Enterprise. They worked well together professionally, each bringing different strengths to the table. Ryan provided the business acumen and connections, while Brooke contributed creative vision and practical insights into the challenges facing small business owners. Their personal relationship deepened alongside their professional collaboration. Ryan became a fixture at Brooke's apartment, often spending evenings there rather than at his luxurious penthouse. He claimed her cozy space felt more like a home than his sleek, designer-decorated condo ever had. One warm July evening, they were walking along the waterfront after a foundation planning meeting when Ryan suddenly seemed nervous, fidgeting with something in his pocket. What's on your mind? Brooke asked, nudging him playfully. You've been distracted all evening. Ryan stopped walking, turning to face her. The setting sun cast a golden glow across his features as he took her hands in his. Brooke Gibson, you have changed my life in ways I never imagined possible, he began, his voice thick with emotion. Before I met you, I was going through the motions successful by most standards, but missing something essential. You reminded me what it means to live with passion, to find joy in small moments, to create something meaningful beyond profit margins. Brooke's heart began to race as Ryan lowered himself to one knee, still holding her hands. I know we come from different backgrounds, and I know we've faced challenges because of that. But those differences have made us stronger, teaching us to communicate, to compromise, to see the world through each other's eyes. He released one of her hands to pull a small velvet box from his pocket. I don't want to spend another day wondering if our worlds are too far apart. I want us to build a new world together. He opened the box, revealing a stunning but tasteful emerald ring surrounded by tiny diamonds. Will you marry me, Brooke? Tears filled Brooke's eyes as she looked down at the man she had fallen in love with, not the millionaire CEO, but the passionate, thoughtful, sometimes stubborn Ryan who had pursued her despite their differences. Yes, she whispered. Then louder, yes, I'll marry you. Ryan's face broke into a radiant smile as he slipped the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly, the emerald catching the last rays of sunlight. He stood and pulled her into his arms, kissing her with such tenderness that Brooke felt tears spill down her cheeks. Why an emerald? She asked when they finally broke apart, admiring the ring. Ryan's eyes crinkled with affection. Emerald Café, he explained. Where it all began, I wanted something to remind us both of where we started. The thoughtfulness of the gesture touched Brooke deeply. It was so characteristic of Ryan to remember such a detail and infuse it with meaning. As they walked back along the waterfront, now engaged, Brooke reflected on the unlikely journey that had brought them together. From that first meeting over a simple cup of coffee to building a future together, it was more than she had ever dared to imagine for herself. What are you thinking? Ryan asked, his arm around her shoulders. I'm thinking about how different our lives were 6 months ago, she replied honestly. And how grateful I am that you walked into my cafe that morning. Ryan smiled, pulling her closer. Best coffee I ever ordered, he said, pressing a kiss to her temple. They planned a small wedding for the following spring, agreeing that neither wanted an extravagant affair despite Ryan's resources. Instead, they opted for an intimate ceremony at a boutique hotel overlooking the water, with only their closest friends and family in attendance. In the months leading up to the wedding, they faced their share of challenges. Ryan's parents, while polite to Brooke, clearly had reservations about their son marrying someone from such a different social background. Meanwhile, Brooke's parents were overwhelmed by Ryan's wealth and status, unsure how to relate to their future son-in-law. "They'll come around," Ryan assured Brooke after a particularly tense dinner with both families. "They just need time to see what we see in each other." Brooke wasn't so certain, but she appreciated his optimism. "I hope you're right. I just want everyone to be happy for us." "They will be," Ryan said with conviction. "And even if they're not, we're still getting married. Nothing's changing that." His unwavering certainty buoyed her through the moments of doubt. And true to his prediction, their families gradually began to warm to one another. Ryan's mother, after initial hesitation, found common ground with Brooke over their shared love of gardening. Brooke's father, a retired high school teacher, discovered that Ryan shared his passion for maritime history. Small connections formed, bridging the gap between their worlds. By the time their wedding day arrived, there was a sense of genuine celebration among all their guests. The ceremony itself was simple but meaningful, with vows they had written themselves. Brooke wore a vintage-inspired gown that made her feel both elegant and authentically herself, while Ryan looked handsome and slightly awestruck as she walked down the aisle toward him. "I never thought I'd find someone who would challenge me, inspire me, and love me exactly as I am," Ryan said during his vows, his voice steady despite the emotion evident in his eyes. "You've shown me that the most valuable things in life can't be measured in dollars or assets. They're measured in moments of connection, in laughter shared over morning coffee, in the courage to bridge different worlds for the sake of love." Brooke's own vows acknowledged the unlikely nature of their union. "When you walked into my cafe that morning, I never imagined we would be standing here today. We've faced doubts from others, and from ourselves about whether two people from such different backgrounds could build a life together. But what I've learned is that the things that truly matter, respect, kindness, shared values, and love, transcend any differences in our bank accounts or resumes." As they exchanged rings and were pronounced husband and wife, Brooke felt a profound sense of rightness. They had found their way to each other against the odds, creating something beautiful and authentic in the process. Their reception was a joyful blend of their two worlds, elegant without being ostentatious, with thoughtful details that reflected both of their tastes. Marco from the Italian restaurant catered the meal, insisting it was his gift to the couple who had their first date at his establishment. The cake was made by a baker who had been one of the first recipients of a Sutherland Foundation grant, her small business now thriving thanks to their support. As the evening progressed, Brooke found herself standing at the edge of the dance floor, watching Ryan chat animatedly with her college roommate. The sight of him so effortlessly integrated into her life filled her with happiness. "He's a good man," said a voice beside her. Brooke turned to find Ryan's father, Robert Sutherland, a distinguished man in his 60s who had been reserved toward her throughout their engagement. "Yes, he is," Brooke agreed, surprised by his approach. "I want to apologize for any coolness you may have felt from me," Robert continued, his eyes on his son across the room. "It wasn't about you personally. I was concerned that Ryan was making an impulsive decision." Brooke tensed slightly. "And now?" Robert turned to face her, his expression softening. "Now I see what he sees in you. The foundation you've helped him build is doing remarkable work, and more importantly, I haven't seen my son this happy since he was a boy tinkering with engines in our garage." Tears pricked at Brooke's eyes. "Thank you for telling me that. It means a lot." Robert nodded, then offered his hand. "I believe I'm entitled to a dance with my new daughter-in-law." As they joined the other couples on the dance floor, Brooke caught Ryan's eye across the room. He watched them with a mixture of surprise and delight, raising his champagne glass in a silent toast when he saw her looking. Later, as they swayed together during their first dance as husband and wife, Ryan whispered in her ear, "I saw you dancing with my father. What did he say to you?" "He welcomed me to the family," Brooke replied simply. "I think we've finally won him over." Ryan's arms tightened around her. "I never doubted we would. You're pretty hard not to love, Brooke Sutherland." The sound of her new name sent a thrill through her. "I think I could get used to that," she murmured. "You better," Ryan teased, "because you're stuck with it and with me for a very long time." After their honeymoon, a 2-week trip to Italy, where they split their time between exploring historic cities and relaxing in a rented villa in the countryside, Brooke and Ryan settled into married life. They compromised on a new home, choosing a charming house in a historic neighborhood rather than Ryan's sleek downtown penthouse or Brooke's tiny apartment. The house had character and history, with a studio space for Brooke's art and a garage where Ryan could work on his vintage car restoration projects. As the months passed, they found their rhythm as a couple, navigating the inevitable challenges of merging two distinct lives. Ryan learned to slow down and appreciate the small pleasures that Brooke valued: lazy Sunday mornings with coffee and the newspaper, impromptu picnics in the park, movie nights cuddled on the couch. Brooke, in turn, became more comfortable in Ryan's professional world, developing her own relationships with his colleagues and friends. The Sutherland Foundation flourished under their joint leadership, expanding its reach beyond Seattle to support small businesses throughout the Pacific Northwest. Brooke's division, focusing on arts and cultural enterprises, gained particular recognition for its innovative approach, combining financial support with practical business mentorship. A year and a half after their wedding, Brooke and Ryan faced a new challenge when they discovered they were expecting their first child. The news came as a joyful surprise, prompting them to reevaluate their busy schedules and priorities. "We need to talk about what happens after the baby comes," Brooke said one evening as they sat on their back porch, enjoying the spring twilight. She rested her hand on her slightly rounded belly, still adjusting to the reality of their growing family. Ryan nodded, his expression thoughtful. "I've been thinking about that too. What are you thinking?" "I don't want to step away from the foundation completely," Brooke admitted, "but I also don't want to miss these early years with our child." "What if we both scaled back?" Ryan suggested. "I've been considering bringing in a COO for Sutherland Marine for a while now. It would free me up to be more present at home and still maintain oversight of the company." Brooke looked at him in surprise. "You do that in a heartbeat," Ryan affirmed. "My father built the company working 80 hours a week, and I barely saw him growing up. I don't want that for our family." He reached over to cover her hand with his own. "Besides, what's the point of all this success if I don't have time to enjoy what really matters?" His words resonated deeply with Brooke. It was another reminder of how far they had both come, Ryan learning to value more than just professional achievement, and Brooke recognizing that ambition and family life weren't mutually exclusive. "I love you," she said simply, leaning over to kiss him. "And our baby is very lucky to have you as a father." As Brooke's pregnancy progressed, they prepared for their new arrival with a mixture of excitement and trepidation. They transformed one of the bedrooms into a nursery, painted in soothing shades of green with a mural of a forest scene that Brooke designed herself. Ryan surprised her by building a rocking chair by hand, spending weeks in his workshop perfecting every detail. "My grandfather made one for my mother when she was expecting me," he explained when he presented it to her, placing it carefully in the corner of the nursery. "It's a Sutherland tradition, apparently." Brooke ran her hands over the smooth wood, touched by the connection to family history. "It's beautiful, Ryan. Our little one will love it." In the final weeks before their due date, they attended birthing classes together, Ryan approaching the process with the same focus he brought to business negotiations. He filled notebooks with information, researched the best pediatricians in the city, and installed the car seat multiple times to ensure it was perfectly secure. "You know we're going to be okay, right?" Brooke teased him one night as he pored over a book on infant development. Millions of people figure out parenting without spreadsheets and flow charts. Ryan looked up, slightly abashed. "I just want to be prepared. This is the most important project of our lives." Brooke smiled, settling beside him on the couch. "I know, and that's one of the reasons I love you. Just remember that not everything can be planned or controlled." Her words proved prophetic when, 3 weeks before her due date, Brooke went into labor unexpectedly. What followed was a 12-hour ordeal that tested both of their resolve, with complications that eventually led to an emergency C-section. Through it all, Ryan remained by her side, his calm presence anchoring her through the fear and pain. When their daughter finally arrived, a tiny, perfect being with Ryan's blue eyes and a tuft of Brooke's honey brown hair, the challenges of her birth faded into insignificance. They named her Lily Grace Sutherland, a name they had chosen together, simple yet elegant. "She's incredible," Ryan whispered, holding his daughter for the first time, his expression a mixture of awe and terror. "How can something so small be so perfect?" Brooke watched them from her hospital bed, exhausted but filled with a profound contentment. This was her family, the handsome, driven man who had walked into her cafe 3 years ago and changed her life forever, and the tiny miracle they had created together. The early months of parenthood brought new challenges: sleepless nights, the learning curve of caring for a newborn, and the adjustment to their new roles. But they faced these challenges as they had all others together, with patience and humor. True to his word, Ryan scaled back his involvement in the day-to-day operations of Sutherland Marine, hiring a highly qualified COO to handle much of the operational responsibility. He still attended board meetings and made major strategic decisions, but his focus shifted noticeably toward home. Brooke took a 6-month maternity leave from the foundation, then returned on a part-time basis, bringing Lily with her to the office 2 days a week. To her surprise, the arrangement worked well. Her team adored Lily, and the foundation's flexible, family-friendly policies became a model for other organizations in the city. As Lily grew from a newborn to an active, curious toddler, Brooke and Ryan settled into a new normal, one that balanced career ambitions with family priorities in a way that felt authentic to both of them. Their home became a hub for gatherings of friends and family, with Ryan's parents and Brooke's visiting regularly to spend time with their granddaughter. On the morning of Lily's 2nd birthday, Brooke woke early to prepare for the small celebration they had planned. She found Ryan already in the kitchen, attempting to decorate cupcakes with their daughter helping from her high chair, frosting smeared across both of their faces. "Mama," Lily called out when she spotted Brooke, her chubby hands reaching up. "Good morning, birthday girl," Brooke said, lifting her daughter for a kiss, heedless of the frosting transfer. "I see you and Daddy are busy." Ryan grinned sheepishly, a streak of pink icing on his cheek. "We thought we'd surprise you with breakfast, but we got sidetracked with cupcake quality control." "Is that what we're calling it?" Brooke laughed, setting Lily back in her chair. She moved to Ryan's side, wiping the frosting from his face with her thumb. "You know, if someone had told me 3 years ago that I'd be standing in a kitchen with Ryan Sutherland and our daughter on a Saturday morning, I'd have said they were crazy." Ryan caught her hand, pressing a kiss to her palm. "And now?" "Now I can't imagine my life any other way," she replied honestly. Later that day, as their small home filled with friends and family celebrating Lily's birthday, Brooke found herself thinking about the journey that had brought them here. From that first Americano order to building a life and family together, it had been an unexpected path, filled with challenges and adjustments, but also with profound joy. She watched as Ryan knelt beside Lily, helping her unwrap a gift with exaggerated excitement, their daughter's laughter filling the room. This was the man who had once intimidated her with his wealth and status, now happily wearing a paper crown and making silly faces to amuse a toddler. Marco from the Italian restaurant approached her, having become a dear friend over the years. He followed her gaze to Ryan and Lily, a knowing smile on his face. "You know, when Ryan first brought you to my restaurant, I thought to myself, this is different," he confided. "I had seen him with other women before, beautiful, sophisticated women who looked like they belonged in his world, but the way he looked at you—" Marco shook his head. "I knew then that what you had was special." "Did you?" Brooke asked, surprised by this revelation. "Of course. In my business, you learn to read people. And that man," he nodded toward Ryan, "he was already half in love with you that first night." Brooke smiled, watching as Ryan caught her eye across the room, winking at her over their daughter's head. "I think I was too, though I wouldn't have admitted it then." As the party wound down and their guests began to depart, Ryan found Brooke in the kitchen, wrapping up leftover cake. He slipped his arms around her waist from behind, resting his chin on her shoulder. "Happy?" he asked simply. Brooke leaned back against him, taking in the comfortable chaos of their home toys scattered across the floor, birthday decorations hanging from the ceiling, the sound of Lily chattering to her grandparents in the next room. "Completely," she answered, turning in his arms to face him. "You know, I used to think that the differences in our backgrounds would be our biggest challenge." "And now," Ryan prompted, echoing their conversation from that morning. "Now I think they're one of our greatest strengths," she reflected. "We see the world differently, approach problems differently. It keeps us balanced." Ryan nodded, his eyes warm with understanding. "I've learned more from you than from any business school or board meeting. You've taught me what really matters." "And what's that?" Brooke asked, though she already knew the answer. "This," Ryan said simply, gesturing to their home, their life. "Family, love, building something meaningful together." He brushed a strand of hair from her face, his touch still sending the same thrill through her as it had the first time. "Thank you for taking a chance on me that day in the cafe." "Thank you for asking me out," Brooke countered with a smile. "Even though it was completely unprofessional to hit on your barista." Ryan laughed, the sound rich and genuine. "Best unprofessional decision I ever made." As they stood in their kitchen, holding each other amid the remnants of their daughter's birthday celebration, Brooke marveled at the unexpected turns life could take. A chance encounter, a cup of coffee, a leap of faith, and here they were, building a life that bridged their different worlds, creating something uniquely their own. The wealthy CEO and the coffee shop barista had defied expectations and found their way to each other. And in doing so, they had discovered that love wasn't about fitting perfectly into each other's worlds. It was about creating a new world together, one cup of coffee at a time.